Hello everyone, I'm Alex Dykes, and today we're going to be taking a look at Chrysler's uConnect 8.4. This is Chrysler's infotainment system that's used in a wide variety of Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram vehicles. This particular model is used in a Chrysler 300 SRT8, and of course it's an 8.4-inch screen here. Now, much of the features and functionality that we're going to be talking about today also apply to Chrysler's smaller 6-inch infotainment system, logically named the uConnect 6. Chrysler's gone button minimalist with uConnect. Down here you'll find the only physical buttons and knobs in the system. Over here we have the power and volume knob. Over here we have tune and an enter button. Here we have the fairly minimalist set of climate control functions. The rest of the climate control functions are all in the software system. Right here we have an SD card slot, so you can put music on an SD card and play that with the system. And down here we have our traditional CD player, of course. uConnect's software interface is very nicely done. This screen is a fairly high resolution screen, and all the graphics are very attractive in this particular unit. Down here on the bottom we have direct access to certain features. Of course we get radio player, we get controls, which is where you'd find your heated seat, ventilated seat, heated steering wheel, etc. We of course get our climate control buttons duplicated. We have the nav button, phone, and on our particular vehicle, since we're in an SRT8 model, we have an SRT button over there. Back on that radio tab, you can see we have Sirius satellite radio. We of course get AM and FM radio. This particular system allows us to replay live radio. You can fast forward and then rewind back to the point where it's live by hitting that live button there. You have direct access tuning. We have a shortcut button to traffic and weather as well. Now up top we have various presets. We have 12 and 12 each for AM, 12 for FM, and 12 for satellite radio. Over here on the player tab, we have our fairly typical iPod, USB, and multimedia interface. We can change sources by this little button up here and change between our disc, our auxiliary input, Bluetooth streaming. Of course, we have an iPod connected to the USB port. If you had a different device there, that label would be different, and our SD card that we went over earlier. Now, this car only has one USB port, and that's just particular to our Chrysler 300 SRT8. Different models have a different number of USB ports. The system did work very well with our iPhone 5, and it was able to charge our iPad 3, which is fairly unusual in the automotive segment. The way that uConnect handles your media library is that it downloads all of your information from your USB or your iDevice, and then it indexes it into the system. That makes responses once you're in the system very snappy, as you can see here. You can access our playlists, our songs, our albums, etc. And every response in the system is very rapid. We also have our album art, as you can see here on albums, once it actually finally loads there. But everything in the system is much faster than you would expect in something like my Ford Touch or even Toyota's Entune system. Back on this particular interface, you can see that we now have voice commands for our iDevice or USB media device as well. Play artist Toby Keith.
Playing the artist Toby Keith.
The system very rarely got anything wrong, which is more than I can say for other voice command systems for music devices out there. It does work very well with a wide variety of media devices, as I said. We're going to skip the nav system and go straight to the phone button. So you can see uConnect offers a stereotypical phone interface. It has a full dial pad, which is very handy. And across the top, you can see we have direct access buttons to particular contacts. Of course, have complete access to our phone book, which it downloads and syncs with your phone, and our usual redial and end buttons. Since we're in an SRT8 model, this button over here says SRT and more, but that's where you'll find system settings as well as Sirius Travel Link. Sirius Travel Link is your data service. It provides fuel prices, weather, movie listings, sports, and Sirius subscription information as well. Direct access button to call Sirius if you'd like. My Favorites allows you to store multiple different weather locations so you can see them all on one screen. The Srt Performance section is unique to the SRT models and varies a little bit from vehicle to vehicle. But since we're in a Chrysler 300 SRT8, you can see we have a picture of the vehicle there. This is where we can adjust the suspension between regular sport and sport track modes. Over here we have our timers button, so you can see your current 0 to 60, eighth mile, quarter mile, braking distance, etc. You can see the last that you've done, and you can see the best of all time. So you can see the best in this particular vehicle over the past nearly 7,000 miles was a 4.6 according to the car. According to our GPS, our best time was 4.5. Some of this varies, of course, based on the tires that are on the vehicle and their profile, etc. Over here we have our G-force counter, so you can see your current G-force, your peak G-force, etc. Over here we have some specialty gauges. We have oil temperature, oil pressure, battery voltage, etc. We can start the vehicle, and you can see how these gauges change. So go back to that Srt Performance gauges screen. You can see now we can see our oil pressure there and our battery voltage has gone up. We go over here, we have a second set of gauges. This gives you even more detail, so you can see your incoming air temperature, coolant temperature, oil pressure, etc. Our exterior temperature right now is 57 degrees, and just because the car was recently started, that's why that's so high. Go over here to engine. This is kind of an interesting screen. You can see how many horsepower and how many pound-feet of torque your engine is currently producing, both in a little bar graph that goes across there, as of course numbers over here as well. It also tells you what gear you're in and the speed that you're going. Over here on the handling screen, it's again another sort of a G-force gauge showing you what the car is doing and what the steering angle is in the car right now. So you can see we can change the steering angle and those little wheel icons change. Over here on the options, you can change the color of your vehicle, and of course you can change the background of the screen as well. Over here on Nav, this interface should look very familiar to you if you've ever used an aftermarket Garmin nav system, because essentially Chrysler has integrated Garmin software directly into this uConnect interface. So all the buttons here are essentially the same that you'd find in that aftermarket Garmin system. This is fully voice commandable in uConnect 8.4 now, although the voice commands are slightly less logical than some of the competition. So in most vehicles, you'd tell the nav system, you'd press the little voice command button and you'd say navigation destination street address, or navigation destination point of interest. In this particular system, you press that button and you read what you're seeing here on the screen. So you'd either say view map or where to. That's a little bit less intuitive than I would like. But once you're on that where to option, all these other sections are completely voice commandable. You can enter addresses manually, you can enter addresses with that voice command system, and it does respond very well. Well, Chrysler has done a nice job integrating this section of the Garmin system into uConnect. If we go over here to view map, you can see that the map is slightly less integrated. Over here we have a bit more information than you'd typically find in an OEM system. So we get elevation, we get driving direction, time, and speed, but we have a fairly small map over here. The mapping interface is fairly snappy, however, and it does give topographical information as well as having a 3D look. Zooming out, it's a little bit hard to see, but the system does provide real-time traffic on this particular screen. You can click over here to see the full-size map, and you can zoom in and out like you can see here. Now you can see a little bit more closely that there is traffic information being displayed on this screen. There's a little yellow dot there, and that's the live traffic. You can select destinations this way and hit the Go button, and of course the system will navigate you there. Once you're actively navigating somewhere, it's fairly easy to come in here and stop navigation or enter a detour, two things that are usually buried somewhat deeply in competitive systems. Overall, the uConnect 8.4 system is a great step forward for Chrysler. It's very easy to use, has these great graphics, it's incredibly responsive, which definitely makes it superior to the latest systems from Ford and Lincoln, especially from Toyota as well. Toyota systems don't have quite the range and breadth of feature functionality as these systems, and their graphics are definitely a little bit old school. My Ford Touch looks very nice, and I do like that home screen layout where they divide the screen in quadrants, but overall it's nowhere near as responsive as this particular system. This system even compares fairly well to things like BMW's iDrive, just in terms of its snappiness, the variety of controls that are offered here, and their ease of use. At this particular moment, you won't find smartphone app integration in uConnect, but you can play streaming audio via Pandora via your Bluetooth streaming option here. I do expect that to happen at some point or another with uConnect, and it would be nice if Chrysler offered some sort of upgrade package to allow older users to add that to their system. That's been our quick look at Chrysler's uConnect 8.4 system. If you'd like us to check into and review other infotainment and navigation systems, just let us know that in the comment section down below, and we'll try and get to those as soon as possible.